Alright, what's up guys? It's Luthier here, and today we have another SPL game. Now, unfortunately, as you can see, I'm watching the replay, so I can really only commentate from that, and that's because my laptop actually crashed halfway through my game. So I ended up having to complete my game off of a friend's laptop, so thank you to that friend for lending me their laptop. But anyways, getting into preview, I should probably explain my team first. All right, so this is the team that I'm using. I'm going to be using, well, I really wanted to use a Coco plus Nidoking this week because I hadn't really used it before, and I really want to stick back to the Volt Turn offense that I consider myself very good at using, or at least better than like the fat teams that I used. And so I wanted to stick with something like Coco with the U-turn because it U-turns on ground and stuff like that. It brings in Nidoking. And I noticed that in the scout for Eeveeto, he does not have very good King switch-ins usually. He actually doesn't like bringing Blissey a lot. Like, he has 0 Blissey usage, 0 Tran usage, or like 1 Tran usage. He also has some weird tendencies with other stuff. Like, he likes T-Tar, which I think is absolutely awful. But anyways, so we were going to go around the Coco Nidoking court. And then shout out to Tala for actually telling me to use Victini, or he used Victini last week in his Coco Nidoking team, and he used it because it's good against stuff like Lele, while also being able to, throw off the powerful attacks, which are combined with electric terrain. So Bolt Strike plus electric terrain from Coco is going to be able to do a lot of damage to everything, and then Glaciate is going to be able to 2KO a defensive Landorus. So that's basically what I'm running with there, and then those are the spreads or whatever. Do note that Nidoking is rocks because I literally could not fit a rocker anywhere else on this team. And Gary Oak told me to use Flamethrower last because it pressures Corv and Scizor and Ferrothorn and stuff like that, which is a bit annoying for me to switch into. So that is what I'm using with that. And then I follow it up with basically Slowking because as the same ideology that I was using in my game against 1TP, which is like week 3 or 4 or something. But either way, the idea is that we have like a front pivot with U-turn on Coco because it's fast. And then we have the back pivot with teleport from Coco, which is basically going to let me bring in my my Nidoking healthy at basically all times. So that's basically my idea there. And then Mandy is just like some sort of spin-off support for Dragapult and stuff like that. And then we have a Scizor to finish off because I think Scizor is great steal and stuff like that. So anyways, that was just basically the team I was running with. And then we run into this at preview. So as you can tell, it's like a really disgusting matchup because I actually have no way of dealing with Dracozolt. But what I'm thinking off the bat is like, if I see no item on the T-Tar, then it's like almost 100% going to be like a soft sand or whatever the item is that allows you to get 8 turns of sand. Then probably like a sub SD Sandville Chomp, then SD Drill, Life Orb or Lefties, Dracozolt, and then Pivot Torn, and then Pivot Prim. Because I don't think you really need like a Trapper on this team. It doesn't really make sense that you need to trap something like a Toxapex. You can always just pivot hard into like Torn and start nasty plotting up if you do have that. But otherwise, you can just go Torn, like throw off a couple Hurricanes and stuff like that, and then you turn out on like a guaranteed recover, and then bring in Dracozolt or Garchomp or whatever exactly it is. So that's what I was thinking from his team. From my side though, I was pretty screwed because I have no real way to deal with Dracozolt at all. So I'm just like praying that I can out pivot him with some U-turns from Coco and Victini because that does a lot of damage to his team. He doesn't have good switch-ins to Victini and Coco, and so switching around with U-turn and stuff is going to be able to damage things, especially if it's like some sort of soft sand or soft rock, smooth rock. That's what it is. Smooth rock. The T-Tar on the T-Tar, then I can basically chip it down with a bunch of U-turns, and then he won't be able to deal with it effectively with those means. Other thing is I also do have electric terrain on Coco, so basically you can't rest up. So any damage I do to T-Tar can basically be permanent in those regards. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't see him ever leading off with Dracozolt, so I want to just lead off with my Slowking because it basically leads off well versus every other mon on his team. I don't see it being Bantar at all. It makes 0 sense to be Bantar because you'd rather just have like the longevity of the sand. So I just assumed it was going to be something along those lines at the preview. So my other game plan is basically pivot it around and then try to weaken out the Dracozolt. So I need rocks up in this game because I want to pressure the Dracozolt. If it's Life Orb, then I can just keep tripping it down. If it's not Life Orb, then I think my Scizor, let me check. Dracozolt, I remember calculating this in the game. It's been like a bit, I guess, so I don't really remember. So if it's not, what do you call it? If it's not Life Orb, then I should live a Fire Blast, well, at least most of the time. And then a +2 a +2, what do we call it? A +2 knockoff into a BP should knock it out nearly most of the time, especially if rocks are up. So that's what I was thinking with that. And I can definitely win with Scizor. So that's basically my game plan. So I lead off with my Slowking. Now my Slowking is fizzed up. I don't know if you guys caught that. So it's gonna be able to usually eat a +2 from +2 EQ from Garchomp, and plus I don't really see him. I don't really see him staying in and risking like it being like Ice Beam or this being like, you know, getting a Scald Burst along those lines. So that just didn't seem like a risk he would make. So I just threw off a Future Sight, and then he brings in his T-Tar. Now he could obviously just get up Rocks, but I do have literally like 5 Boots users and then a Nidoking, so Rocks doesn't really do much for me or against him in this game. So I thought he would just throw off a T-Wave, and getting a Scald Burn on this is nice because it basically reduces the longevity on the T-Tar, and that also makes it so that Sand can't be up long term. So I just throw off a Scald, just because, you know, getting any chip on the T-Tar would be nice. But he goes hard Dracozolt for some reason. I get a crit, and I get a burn. So this dude, for some ungodly reason, just tossed out his win condition turn 1. And I have no idea why I did it, because it was for sure by far the biggest threat to my team. So literally made 0 sense for him to do that. But anyways, so now that I have the Future Sight up, I know he's not going to stay in, but out of fear, I should switch out. But I can just trade the Calcs, because now that he is burned, now I don't know exactly what his spread is, but I just assumed it was like 252 lonely or whatever. And then if that was the case, then he could have... Wait, did I do something stupid? Okay, 1 second. Oh, no, that's why. Okay, yeah, so at the range I was at, I could actually have died to a max attack Life Orb Dracozolt, because it revealed no item at this point, so I knew it probably had to be Life Orb. So for that reason, you know, I wasn't going to risk it, because especially because I got such a nice burn early on in the game, it's not something I had to risk. So my possible plays are going Coco, Victini, or Nidoking. I don't really want to go Scizor, obviously, and that's because it has a fire move. And the reason I didn't go into Nidoking or Coco is because I do get 2 KO'd by Earthquake if he decides to go for something like that. And then Victini is my play because it also switches to something like Torn, and it also covers a switch to something like T-Tar, because I do get that U-turn chip up. So I do double into my Victini at that point, because it does cover a double to T-Tar, because obviously the Future Sight is still up, so he is not going to let that, you know, hit it. But either way, I went to my Victini and throw off a U-turn, and I do calc the damage that I did. And basically what that reveals is that the T-Tar is going to be some sort of Spit F set, or not Spit F set, it's going to be like max HP. So I don't know necessarily if he's Spit F or not, but it's like no Fizz F. So that's what I was thinking there. And at the end of the turn, it also reveals that it's no item, so I'm going to be basically thinking it's going to be Smooth Rock. So that was that. And then I go into my Coco because since I saw that it's defensive T-Tar, I know it's going to be more likely than not some sort of like Thunder Wave, Rock Blast, Stealth Rocks, and it could be Rest, could be EQ, could be Superpower, whatever it is. So that's why I went into my Coco, because it covers basically all the plays you can go for. I don't need my Coco super healthy. I just need it to be marginally healthy so I can switch into Hurricanes from Torn. And so I just throw off the U-turn to get some nice chip on the T-Tar. And so for some reason he stays in, lets it get lower, and then I just go into my Slowking because it basically covers like a Superpower or an Earthquake or whatever. I did not expect him to go for a T-Wave because I could have freely clicked something like Dazzling Gleam there, but I guess he called me there, so whatever. And I just go into my Slowking. So at this point, I just throw off another Future Sight, I believe. Oh, no, I just teleport. And the reason the reason I teleport it is because I want to out-momentum him at this point, because if I give him free turns to get in something like, you know, Garchomp or Dracozolt, then he gets chances to set up, especially because at this point I was thinking it was Sandveil on Garchomp, and if he goes hard into Garchomp here, he can fish for subs, and at that point I'm really screwed because my way of dealing with it is outlasting the sand turns, hitting all my foul plays with Mandibuzz, and then going to Coco to revenge if they Aldo hit. So something like that, which is not something I like. And so I actually talked about this with other people, and the reason I wanted to U-turn here is because in tests I actually had played this exact same, well, not the exact same team, but a very, very similar team to this from Craig, which is 100% Pure Heat, and John W, because I was testing with them, and those are a couple of my testing buddies, and they had brought a very, very similar team to this, and I got 6-0'd by it like nearly every single time because I have no good Dracozolt answer. But anyways, regardless, on the team they had run Life Orb, Rock Slide, Excadrill, and that basically 2-KO'd my Mandy. So I was thinking, yeah, I need to get pivot, I need to get some momentum on the Excadrill and bring in, you know, my Slowking or whatever and throw off Scalds and whatnot, and that's going to be my way of winning at that point. So that's what I was thinking. And so I was debating clicking Dazzling Gleam, I guess, for a second, but in the end I just clicked U-turn. And unfortunately, he gets a crit, which is really, really bad because now I cannot switch into Torn. If he didn't get the crit, then I would have been at around what? I would have been around 40%, and I do live Hurricane from that range. Obviously, I don't live Heat Wave, but either way, it gave me a lot more pivoting options, and him getting the crit was really, really bad for me. So, I was like, all right, whatever. I did make a misplay there, I guess, and that's fine. And so I don't have anything else that I can really eat. Maybe I could have gone Nidoking here because Nidoking is really not winning this game because it's slower than everything on his team, and picking up kills on T-Tar isn't relevant that much. I can always just go into Victini and Volt turn out, or Coco and do the same. And then on Primarina, I do have a Slowking, which is whatever. So it's not like I really need a Nidoking. And honestly, looking back, maybe I should have gone to that instead. But either way, I do end up going into my Victini. And I did calc the damage, and I was out of range of everything. And then he goes for a Draco, and he crits this one too. So this dude is so absurdly lucky because him critting both of these last moves basically put my Victini and Coco into range of Sand. So it was really, really bad for me, this sequence at least. But either way, we do get rid of the Draco as well. So Mandibuzz does become a bit better. And I just go to my Coco here because obviously Sand runs out, so I'm not taking the chip. And if it does go into Excadrill, I can always U-turn into something like Mandy and whatnot. And obviously, I'm out of Rough Skin range at this point. So I was like, all right, whatever. Going Coco is like a no drawback play. So he does go into his Excadrill. And on the U-turn, he goes into Garchomp. So he risks his Garchomp, which is whatever. Obviously, I'm never clicking Dazzling Gleam there. But he does it just to throw off the Rough Skin, which is smart on his part because now my Coco is in range of Sand. So I can never bring it in on Sand. So that's a good play on his part. And at this point, I just go into my Mandibuzz because my Slowking is paired and I don't want to really, play games with it. And then he reveals that it's non-item at the end of the turn. So I'm really thinking that this is some sort of like Life Orb SD, which is really contrary to what I thought because prior to turn 9, I was thinking that it was going to be a Sandveil sub SD because obviously if you have like the Sand Stream on T-Tar, then it just makes the most sense to do that. But he ends up not being it, and then I just go for a foul play because you never know what kind of odd plays he would make because clearly he made like a crappy play turn like 3, so you never know. Either way, he goes into Prim. Now, what I have said earlier is that there are 2 scenarios here. He could be a trapping Prim, or he could be a pivoting Prim, which I definitely think it's flip turn. But either way, I have a couple moves here. I can either go for a U-turn, I can go for a Defog. And if I go for a U-turn and he flip turns on me, then I'm in a really, really bad position because he gets in something like Garchomp, and which I still thought was sub SD at the time, and I was like, that's really not ideal for me. So I go for the Defog because none of my other moves could have helped me here. And so going back to what I was saying, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so there are 2 cases. It could be a Trapper Prim, and if it's a Trapper Prim, then I can just U-turn the turn after, go into my Slowking, and then slow teleport out, and then I have regained momentum at that point. So that's case 1. Case 2 is it's a momentum Prim, and in that case, I just stay in here and go for the Defog. I know it only effectively helps out Nidoking, but like if I go into anything else and click U-turn, then he out momentums me, and then I'm in a bad position. So I have to go for the Defog here because I don't want him getting momentum. Turns out he is momentum Prim, which is exactly like what I thought originally. And so that's that. He goes into his T-Tar, and so I was thinking, yeah, this is super free chip for me, right, with U-turn. And he makes actually a really, really solid play and goes into Torn here. Now, what that does is I cannot go into my Coco because I do die to Sand, which is courtesy of the lucky crits he got earlier. So I have to go into my Slowking. And at this point, the funny thing is my laptop actually crash soon. But anyway, so I had to go to my Slowking, and I was expecting him to be some sort of like support Torn because being so offensive just makes little sense to me. But he ends up being non-support Torn, and he ends up being Nasty Plot. So I had to throw off a Future Sight, and I go for a Skull because of shit. Anyways, yeah, so turn 14 is when my laptop disconnects, and I lost my phone, and I didn't know where it was, so I had to run around and figure out how to play. So I ended up using like a friend's laptop. But anyways, regardless, I calced it out, and Scald into Future Sight should knock it out, especially with sand damage. So, and I don't die to a +2 Hurricane, even though I'm mostly Fizz Def. So I do go for a Scald. Luckily, we do not get paralyzed. And then not bum. What I said bum. But at this point, I should have realized that the Victini sack. Well, this is what my teammate said, but the Victini sack was incredibly obvious. So I could have just stayed in and gone for a recover. But I didn't have like the balls to make that play at that point. Plus, like chipping Excadrill would have been nice, I guess. Whatever. Regardless, I do switch out and toss out Victini because he can't stay in because the Future Sight is up, right? So he goes into extra drill, he makes a good play on his part, and I toss out Victini, which is whatever. So at this point, I have to go into my Mandibuzz, I believe, and I go for the U-turn. Now, the reason I go for a U-turn is because if he loses this, then he can basically just, like, straight up lose, like, 6-0 by Coco. And I can recover on, like, T-Tar and Torn and, like, Prim. So I did not expect him to stay in at all, but he does go for an Iron Head, and I do go for the U-turn, which is whatever. And then I bring in my Scizor because, obviously, everything else dies at this range. Well, yeah, everything just dies. So I have to go into my Scizor, and here I make a bit of a risky play. And the reason I do what I do is because this covers two things, basically. So I go to Mandibuzz. I double back to Mandibuzz because it covers two things. It covers, one, him going for an Earthquake again, trying to chip down my Scizor, or two, him doubling to, like, Chomp. Because I did see that it was, like, a Life Orb Chomp. I thought he could go hard into it, and maybe it could be, like, special. Who knows, right? So I do go into my Mandibuzz as it covers a double to Chomp. So, as you see my timer killing there. But either way, I am outside of range of Stone Edge right now, but my thought process was, if this is Life Orb Stone Edge, right, which I still had not revealed what type of set this was, and I don't know what he's running. If it's Life Orb Stone Edge and he SDs on my Roost, then I die to Stone Edge at 100, and so I would lose a game on the spot, basically. So that's what I was thinking, and that's why I just go for a foul play, because I want to catch like a possible choke or whatever. And so that was my reasoning there. And what this foul play does is it effectively puts the Garchomp into range of +2 Scizor. So Scizor is looking primed to possibly win. So that's that. And then I go into my Coco because, again, nothing can revenge this. And I have to pray for a choke. His play is always Earthquaking here. He has no reason to not Earthquake because all he has to do is Earthquake, go into T-Tar, and then win with Excadrill. So I have to pray for a choke. And he makes a god-awful play by going into hard T-Tar. He didn't really need this Chomp anymore, but either way, whatever. And so he, by going T-Tar, he's actually opened up an avenue for my Scizor to win. So I go hard into my Scizor, click SD, and then click SD again. And the reason I click SD again is because Torn is actually outside of +2 BP range, and I would lose because it could effectively run Hurricane. And so that's why I had to SD again. And then this is where my timer was low. I was really frustrated about my laptop dying halfway through. So I ended up going for an XT again, and then I spam Roost, and I get paralyzed here, which is, unfortunate. But whatever. I have to be outside of range of Excadrill, or else I just lose. So I need to recover up. So basically, he gets 3 hits, dodge that, and then he gets 4 hits, and then a crit, and we dodged that one. And so luckily we just Roost with Scizor. And so I just have to, because he revealed Draco Meteor, I'm just gonna assume this is Fire Blast as well. So I need to dodge, or I need to be able to hit the BP here. Fortunately, we get parried, but fortunately, he misses the Fire Blast. So that's that, and then we end up breaking through with Bullet Punch, and then I end up, whatever. This is actually a roll, and it's marginally in my favor. Let me just throw it out. Oops, wrong. Yeah, so +4 against an Excadrill. And so yeah, so it's a roll, and it's okay. It's not in my favor, but I could have fished for it, whatever. Does get the Earthquake chip off. He goes into Torn. I kill Torn, and basically the game is over. So once I just hit the Excadrill with a BP, I was gonna win with my Koga regardless. But yeah, so needless to say, it was a very, very whack game. Like the game, honestly, on Eeveeto's side, he should have never ever tossed out his Drake result like that. That was literally one of the worst plays I've seen from the SPL standpoint. But regardless, we take those. That's not something that we messed up. That's something that the opponent gave to us. So that's that. And then obviously just whatever. This doesn't really matter. And then I'm just gonna go with Nidoking, and I'm gonna be able to revenge the Primarina. So that's that. We are now 5-3 in SPL. Obviously some unfortunate games that could have been played better on my part, and then obviously some games that were left up to RNG that were not favorable. But this game was a lot nicer. Obviously, I'm not going to take full credit and say that, I didn't get a bit lucky, but I do believe that getting that Skull Burn was, completely deserved. You should have never had to risk that in the first place. And then, obviously, the no paras with the Scizor was nice. But, yeah. Anyways, that's going to be our Week 8 game. At this time, we're up 2-0. Soul Gazer just won, I believe. So, that's going to be that. And hopefully, we actually end up making playoffs. And I will see you guys next week so I can bring you guys some more content. Peace.